Hey guys, Jake here. We're at Pear Tree Ranch, and this is Milton. This video is going to be kind of a story video. We're going to tell the story of Milton because he's actually just getting ready to leave today. We have been working with this horse close to 2 months now, and he was bought by a friend of ours. She's also a trainer, and we've helped her with some other difficult horses in the past, and this horse was sold to her as an Irish sport horse. Oh, internet, you cheeky bugger, you. This is a Belgian cross. This horse has a big old brand on the other hip that wasn't in the sale ad, and a nice big old brand on top of his rump. And when you do your research, you find out he was bred to be a bucking horse. Oh, yippee! This horse, she knew was too much for her, and when she found out where he was from and what he actually was, she called and said, I need help. I know this is going to be potentially dangerous and not something that she wanted to deal with. And so we've had to go just from getting him to not try to kill us when we want to halter him, to being able to, hi bud, good boy, have some handling, do some groundwork, get a brush on him. And the goal was, could I kind of get the rough off, get where he could be saddled and get some of that going so that she could rehome him to somebody that wanted the project. So we're going to bring you along on this journey. I'm going to roll a bunch of different clips that we've taken throughout the process to show you how it started versus how it's going and the success and tribulations that we've had working with Milton. Okay. So we're going to go through all these clips that were built up over the last few months of this horse being here. And this clip actually was weeks into us starting. We had already done Liberty with him, getting him to, fit in the shushy sticks. We have put the bareback pad on him. We've already put the blanket and stuff, and we've already had a failed attempt at putting the saddle on. The first time I went to put the saddle on, we had done all these prep steps for days and did all of like you're going to see here, put the saddle on, it went on, and he stood still, switched sides, got it about halfway cinched, and he exploded. Now, luckily, the saddle stayed on. He got enough withers, and it was on enough. It didn't like go under his belly and get destroyed, but he exploded, bucked. Yeah, this horse kicked me. I've never been kicked by one horse so many times. In almost 20 years of doing horses, I'd only ever been kicked by a horse around 3 times in my whole career. This horse himself kicked me that many times. And this clip does finish with, you'll see him blast me right on my inner thigh, which was a really nice bruise for a while. And it really set us off on a path of, this horse is going to need so much more. When he started, fussing and fighting and he kicked me, I tied up his front feet. I laid him down. Pulled him to the ground just to get him to realize we're not going to hurt you. Put him in one of the toughest binds you can put a horse in and have him, live and realize, oh, that wasn't horrible, where he just got rubbed and rubbed. So we did a ton before this clip here, and it still wasn't enough. He was so quick to learn and was so bothered about the saddle that we just had to take a deep dive into what are all the different ways that we could help a horse have confidence to have all these different things put on him and not have it mean anything bad, and then have some yielding working where he could stay off the rope, move his different body parts, And when in doubt, just stand still. Okay? When in doubt, just stand still. So knowing the routine and to keep things less, what I'm setting up here is to just do the saddle and to just set up and softly kind of toss it on him and build up. We've done so much putting stuff on him, between flags and pads and blankets. It was like, okay, well, this should be able to be a simple little thing that we've prepped for. So you're going to see me just little baby toss and pow! Oh, got me. So we just went deep dive. What are all the things that we could challenge him with? So we got out the super secret horse training tool, the feed sack. And to keep away from him, because he's just a sniper with those hind legs, you could stand at his shoulder and he could kick you. And some of the times where he tried to kick me, it was like this cow kick from the back leg while standing at his shoulder. Just the first day I ever tried to halter him. And so at a distance with this bag on a string, we just said, I need a good fishing horse. I need you to help me go fishing. And I got to get ready to catch these wily feed sacks. And we just let him be bothered. And it was rearing and striking and kicking, but all away from me, okay, where I could stay safer. And just could we get him to handle all this craziness, okay, and learn to realize it's not about him, okay? And by kind of just trying to make up some of this stuff that I could expose him to, having not, had a horse that didn't just kind of get with the simpler things, realizing what was going on, we had to get creative, okay? And so we started with, you can just see the side eye and the worry in his eye about that feed sack. Okay. And by getting him to, one, not just stand still and be frozen, but learn to move and think as well, took so much time, so much pressure, so much patience, so much creativity to help him make it. And this is just end of the day. You can see I've already kind of switched gears into a t-shirt after a long, hot, sweaty day. And now this next clip, we're going to see him where, bam, he could kick that bag out of the air. Okay, so we hung one at a time at first and just put it on. Look at him, like a sniper, just pow, 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 1, 2, 3. And he doesn't miss. He doesn't miss. And so every time he kicked and took time to do that, I just shushed him forward. Okay. Once we had the standstill, we needed to be able to tolerate some of this stuff in motion and not think, attack. Look at him, kick that thing. Wow. As we got him used to this more and more, you'll see through the next clip that he was able to just wear these. But look at him, kick the gate open, rip the chain right through the keeper. Okay. And so this is just a continuation. We stopped, closed the gate, turned the camera back on. And he just started to get to where he could go. There, you just kind of saw the change happen. And now we're realizing we can just wear this. And we did this for days in a row. Days and days and days of just building him up to not think about fight and kick and have fear. By having him take this time to experience this stuff, he just got more and more trusting, more and more understanding of humans are just weird. Don't take it personal. You don't have to fight about it. Just allow them to help you, and life will be easier. And so you can see here at the end that he could just stand still and allow me to help him untie these, again, just an empty, filled with air feed sack on a training string tied onto the handle of that bareback pad. And we just had to do this for days and days till it just wasn't a deal for him. How many different things can we get creative with exposing him to? Okay, exposure, it just happens, life happens, like the wind blows. I can't control that. And then also train him with confidence using approach and retreat. One of the other things that we did was some ground driving. And the reason that I chose to do ground driving is I really wanted to be able to have him, again, feel a little trapped, feel in a bind where there's these reins on either side. And he actually took to it very quickly. It wasn't something that I had to do a whole lot of times, but we did as a test and a check to, could I get him to go somewhere and stop going somewhere? And could I then get a hold of him and draw him back? Going and woeing. Going and woeing. And then we worked on getting him to choose to turn. So I'm going to kind of hold the inside rein and release. There you saw my left hand come forward. Release the outside rein to allow him to turn, but then also start to use that left rein to draw his hip to the right there so he could turn, change eyes, ride him through a serpentine. Could we go and woe again? Just simple little ground driving exercise. We got a whole series of that on Patreon on how I would sequence training a horse to do this. But for this horse, it was mostly about put him in a bind where he could feel the stuff on both sides of him, and can he not feel trapped and not fight? And could he also allow me to then control him by stopping him and backing him? Now you can see in some of these shots, you can see how thin he was when he came. And, by the end video where we're saddling, he got a lot more weight on him, which is nice to see. And that's the hard balance when we're training and helping these horses, is you got mental, emotional, and physical training, as well as I talk about, if you believe in it, spiritual. You've then got to be able to have the physical care of the horse and keep the feed programs balanced, keep the exercise program balanced, so they are increasing not just knowledge on how to have confidence yielding patterns of purpose, understanding the human, but then, taking care of their physical well-being, farrier prep. Okay. So could we start to get control over his feet with getting a rope on there? Just to get the rope on there was a process, so that we could then start offering him these yields. Again, touching him in all over to where he can just learn to trust the human's touch and feel, not be too tickly or worried about it, but then also follow my feels and allow me in there to where I could touch him and handle those feet. We're able to trim the front feet at the end. I didn't mess with trimming the back feet, and he's going to go they've got a home for him that's going to then continue his education and such. And the feet weren't in rough shape that we felt like we had to push getting those feet done. But I was able to get a little cut on his back foot. I was able to doctor that with his feet on the ground and rub on it. So we really did make a lot of progress with handling all the different parts of the horse. And just getting him to where he could allow me to hold it soft so he could get his foot undone. Now, if you've seen any of my videos, you hopefully are well aware that I have my bare minimum groundwork. We worked on that with this horse. So being able to put his head down a little bit when we shush, being able to go sideways, relax with his head down. We worked on that stuff just to get the different body parts going in the different directions. And it took a lot to get him to stretch and yield. He was so heavy on his face. You can see a lot of these clips, he's wearing the lariat halter because it can be stiffer and really tightened down to offer him some discomfort when he pulls, and then it loosens up when he yields. And with this big and strong of a horse, and he's not the biggest or the strongest, okay, but a draft horse or a draft cross has the ability to be really strong and slow and quiet in their nature, where they could just take a lot. This clip you can see, you can't see his ribs so easy anymore like in that previous clip. Really started to get some nice weight on him. This horse struggled with the flies, irritating his eyes, and it took a long time, but we kind of got him where we could even get a fly mask on him and, you know, wash the gooberies out of his eyes with a nice wet rag and take care of him in that way. It's just a simple thing like putting a fly mask on a horse. Here you can see that big brand on his hip, 42, and I've seen the videos that the girl that owns this horse was sent as the sale videos, and you can see why she purchased and said yes on buying the horse that was in the videos. The problem is the horse in the videos didn't have that brand. It's not the same horse. It's just a sad, sad thing. Now, it's a similar looking horse, similar colored horse, very similar blaze. And his name is Milton because they picked him up in almost the middle of the Hurricane Milton that came through Florida. And so there was a bit of a rush to get him picked up. And again, some of that probably is because they were pulling a fast one, which is just sad and frustrating. So we taught him to do horsey burpees, where he could follow that rope and turn. And a big part of this horse's training was being super slow and methodical. And as we transition out of some of these clips, you're going to start seeing me challenge him with different things to put on him in preparation for being able to get a saddle on him and not get killed. As I edited this video for you guys to make it a manageable length to watch, there's parts of the clips that I cut out because it's literally minutes of me. Like, look at this. that looks like it was the screen was frozen for a second. And I'm just good at playing the statue game, and the horse is too, where it just, you can only tell it's still going because maybe you can softly see his breathing. And so I trimmed long sections of me just standing still and leaving him alone to process out. Again, just to keep it manageable so that you guys hopefully get all the way through and really watch all the video. But that's an important part of the process, is allowing this horse to think and feel good about that. You kind of saw me wipe my face. That this was a pretty emotional day for me getting this horse ready. I remember that, and I wasn't sure if there was clips, but I'll point that out. That was just some tears in the eyes of just feeling, one, very thankful that the horse was starting to make it, but he was starting to really open up and just kind of be honest about how bothered he was, how deep that went. And it just was one of those days where it kind of hit me just right. And again, it's just me and the horses out there a lot of days, and it was a kind of quiet moment that just it just got me. One of the things that we did a lot to prep him is touch him all over with a rope. And this actually, in order of how he did things, yes, I rubbed him, but this is actually much towards the end of his training, this exact clip. But I edited it in the video and kept it early to show that we did a fair bit of touching him, just with our hands and the rope to help him, and built it up to where I could pat and have it not be the softest and easiest, to help build in some tolerance and acceptance for him. Another great tool for getting horses used to different things going on them is these big training balls. I watch Pat Pirelli do demos with this big ball all over the country and different bothered horses, and it's a great tool to use because it's lightweight and it's big and loud at times when it bounces and bumps them. And so they, instead of lifting that saddle a bunch of times, and then, like when I got kicked, I had two hands on that saddle, so it was hard to manage that horse, and he's so fast. When he exploded, I could do nothing to stop him. Well, here, I can toss that ball from a distance, and he can explode all he wants, and I can be in a little bit safer space. And so it's been a long time since I've really needed the ball to help a horse, just with timing and application and build it up. I haven't had any horses that were all that bad that I felt like I couldn't just get the saddle on them and be safe and be just fine. But this horse was a different story. So we got a nice fresh new ball ordered, and you can get these with a ball cover. So it's from the company Horseman's Pride, and you can order it on Amazon. This is the 40-inch ball, and make sure you order the 40-inch cover when you order the 40-inch ball, so that you don't have to wait another day for the right size cover to come like I did. And you can just bounce and roll this thing. And you saw me just push it to him, let it run into him, and just no big deal, and roll it by him, and just lots of reps there until he got pretty tolerant of this thing bouncing off of him and realized it wasn't chasing him, it wasn't getting him, and he started to get stickier and stickier feet. And as he gets the stickier and stickier feet here, pretty quick you're going to see me transition. The nice thing about this cover is there's a hole where you push the ball in there, and it just has some Velcro on it. That's the hole you can see right there. You slip my hand in it. You can then pick it up and hold that, and it makes it much easier to quietly lift and put that on the horse. And you can have a little more control over the ball at that transitional spot from him almost being stood still to actually getting stood still. Okay. And once he froze when it went on, again, There he's licking and chewing. You can see it's not that the video's frozen. I'm just perfectly still to just be quiet and have nothing happening so he can realize this was the answer all along. Just stand still. Okay? Just stand still. Now, we transition from holding that to being able to bounce the ball and push it around. The ball then, we did it on both sides and did it a whole lot of times to where it was just bouncing and bouncing. And you're going to see that more in some other clips. So I kind of cut the end of that session, which was the first time we did it, just to, again, not have this video be hours long. One of the other things that we did is, can we put a tarp on him? So the first time we did the tarp, I had him put his feet over it. Okay. And then we progressed to just touching him softly at the shoulder. So he's already had the tarp on numerous days in this video. The thing was, every day it was redo, restart, go again. And you had to make sure that he was able to accept it. And you didn't make any assumptions with this horse. That's what got me in trouble in the first part. And it just was an honest mistake of having done all the work to do things and get where it seemed like, okay, we're good to go. And it was not good to go. The tarp here is rolled up on one end and it has a string on it so that we can hook that onto a saddle horn and have horses learn to drag it. And with that rolled up end, it gives it a little bit of weight, and it helped keep it controlled so that I could just kind of touch that on him soft at first, and then it has the big sloppier end, which we start getting him used to by pulling it up and off him. It also, as it swings over there, as I do it with a little more oomph and liveliness to it, it bumps him on the other side. Now, it's not hurting him on the other side, but it sure creates a bit of a startle, which is the point to help build up his tolerance. If you don't swing the saddle perfectly, it can slap him on the other side. But even when you barely swing a saddle and just lightly lay the stirrup on the edge of his back, we saw what happened. Kung Pao, hind leg in the old biscuits. And this just helped create oomph, where it's like I'm lifting it and tossing it and pushing it at him. And you had to build up his tolerance to handle all the energy it takes to, throw a heavy saddle. And this was a great tool to help build him up to that. And could we get it on him and then walk off, where he started to learn to now carry some things on him. You see a lot of times I prepare the coils and prepare the rope, okay, making sure that stays soft on his face and not staying cinched down all the time if he pulls, and then prepping him with rub the coils on the shoulder and then toss the tarp or the ball. Okay, this isn't the last thing that we're going to throw on him. I've got a few more. Another thing to kind of note is the reps. Look at how many times on and off and on and off. And it's just weeks of doing this and to help him choose relaxation and confidence to allow us to do this. Now, in this process, he would grunt and groan as things were going on, as he was slowly starting to let out the tension. And he just was so stoic and frozen on his insides about how he felt to some of these things. And so we just kept going until he got softer and softer and started to let some of that stuff out. And it just was all about having really good rhythm and consistency so that it just becomes like a meditation that he could get settled into accepting. And then could I just work, not just slow, easy, get it on there once, but keep moving around him and the switch and the in process and in motion, uh, and not get bothered on the transition from left side to right side. Okay, the transition from coils in one hand to the other hand, the transition from walking around him, the transition from on and off. There's all these transitions that he could get bothered in, and to keep him in the game was important. Now, this is my old pair of chaps. Many of you know Ryan Rose is a great friend of mine, and we get talking about horses that we're working, and he was talking to me about some help with his Mustang Marley. He was saying he wanted me to check her out, look her over, and I said, I'm doing this horse, and this horse just kicked me. It's so bad. I'm trying to figure out all these different things. And I told him all that the tarp and the ball and all the things. And he says to me, shaps. He said, throw your old pair of shaps on them because they're leather. And so they kind of have a similar feel and sound to a saddle. And he said, I've only ever actually done it once, but I had one horse that was so hard to saddle. It was a colt. He started out in Texas. And the horse was so bothered that was a lightweight thing that he was able to throw 100 million times on that horse and get it used to it. So thanks, Ryan Rose, for coming up with the idea and reminder. Use the old pair of shaps. Now here you're seeing me do the old lip super secret move. Squeeze the lip until he relaxes, and I'm just holding that softly until he kind of releases the tension in his mouth. And you couldn't hardly touch this horse on the face, let alone touch his lip when we started. So again, it's also a good gauge of where's he at in his relaxation. And a lot of these clips, I've got most of them, the audio is turned off because when we're working, we've got some good tunes on. So you can see me grooving to the music a little bit. And I can't have that music on here for YouTube, but that's kind of why a lot of these clips don't have any background noise for you to hear what's going on. It's just me working to the music. Now, here you see I've got the shaps on them, and then I'm going to stick the tarp on as well. We started to then not just being able to play one note at a time. You got to start to combine notes if you're really going to make music. Okay, so I know how to play the guitar a little bit. So you got to learn a G chord, and you practice G, 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 G. And then you got to practice the C chord, C, 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 C. Okay, and then eventually you learn the D chord, D, D, D. And eventually you transition from one to the next. Okay, and then you combine them in different combinations to make different songs. And that's what we started to do with this horse is, could I put the shaps on? Good. Now you get the shaps on. You're also going to wear this tarp. And then I'm going to take off the tarp, and then I'll take off the shaps. And then I'll put the tarp, and then the shaps, and then shaps, and then the tarp. Okay. This is one of those times where I stood for a long time, but I wanted you to see him starting to acknowledge the thing. Reaching over there, putting his nose and getting curious. There's a lot more blinking going and thinking, and that was a turning point for him. So now we've got the shaps and the tarp and the ball. You can see from the first session to this session, it was much different. There's a lot more busyness and just tossing that ball and having it roll off the other side. Have him be comfortable to stand still. So he's still getting curious and investigating that tarp, which is wonderful. And then take the shaps. And then always got that coil in my hand to be able to rub him with that as well. Those coils need to be in there and work close, especially if I'm holding them and go to toss the saddle in the future. You can see him just get ready, and I'm not slapping him or being rough with that stuff, but he just is anticipating it not being a good feeling and a good deal. We just did it over and over and over again, on and off and on and off, and just maintained it until he could start to turn loose to the idea that this stuff isn't going to kill him. Or hurt him. Like that was a great example. That bounced awkwardly on his butt, and he just and tried to stay still. So now, shaps, tarp, ball. And that's when we really started having a bit of a turning point. And we just had to then do and maintain this for days and days and days. So then we got wise, and we got a nice lightweight little kid saddle, which I already had. Somebody gave me this as a nice gift for us to have our son be able to ride in a kid saddle. And so just working here on keeping that hip moving away. So that way, if he's gonna flinch, don't pull your nose, jump and kick with the hind leg. Just move your hip away. Okay, just move away. And this was just reps and reps and reps. This kind of old, crusty, old, dry leather. Awkward and loud, and just getting him used to on and off and on and off and on and off. And it doesn't mean anything. It's not about you. You're not a bad boy. It's not anything that's a problem. It's just something that happens when you're a horse. People want to put this thing on you. And we just built this up to where he could have that thing come out to play, and he didn't have to be overly defensive, and that we could have a little bit of slack in that line, and he could just stand still and start to consider relaxing. And again, I left a fair bit of this in there for you guys to see. Make sure you're realizing and appreciating the number of reps that it takes at times. And just being patient and consistent so they get enough exposure to really feel good about it. Now, keeping track of all the different things can be hard when we're training sometimes. So like not blowing by the fact that he tossed his head a little bit. I stopped and I rubbed his face, make sure that he didn't feel bad about it. Continuing to always be rubbing him with the coils of the lariat and exposing him to my hands moving around and up and down, and that he's not being shying away from all that motion and just getting used to it. We want to touch these horses really soft, and they really like it better when we do. However, this big horse needed us to like pat him and uh, touch him in a way that technically is rude, but could we build up his tolerance? He just was so overly sensitive and explosive about it. We had to create some better understanding. I don't want to use the word desensitization, just better understanding of that might happen, and it's not the end of the world, and you can stay trusting to the human. And so once we kind of got that on there, starting to flirt with take a step and not have anything bad happen. Take a step and not have anything bad happen. And just build him up layers and layers at a time. And have those layers start to stack up and be thick enough that we might have something to stand on. And I put this clip in there. You just kind of saw the same looking thing, but it was just important to point out. It was days after days after days of this to just help him not do it once, not do it twice, but have all these repetitions to where he could be really good at standstill. And in the schemes of really good, he's barely mediocre these days, but compared to where he started, the amount of growth is really good. On again, off again, on again, off again, switch sides, on again, off again, on again, off again, switch sides. Same thing, you can see the tarp's there on the ground. Same thing with the ball. And I just, when I thought I had done it enough, I did it some more. There's a man named Grant Cardone, and one of his books that he wrote is called The 10X Rule. Great friend of mine, Nate Bauer, said, I think you should read this book. It's a great book. And the gist is, when you think it's going to take X amount of time, prepare yourself to have it take 10 times longer. You won't be disappointed then. When you're ready for 10 times longer, and it only takes 2 times longer, you're happy. Okay? Prepare 10 times more. Practice 10 times more. Study 10 times more. Be still and quiet 10 times longer. Be patient 10 times more. Just when you thought you did enough reps, do 10 times more. I'm wearing my shirt right now. It's my gym shirt. We had a little bit of a rainy morning, so I came back in from outside and slipped this t-shirt back on, and it says go one more. We need one that says go 10 times more. It's just so important to get those reps in. Now, this is going to be the last clip from the last session. And this is a 36-minute clip. When I started, it's not 36 more minutes. Don't worry. Please stay till the end. See the success. Okay? Don't forget, hit the old like and subscribe. Do all those things. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about old Milty. The last day we kind of went through, you can see I've got all the things out, got the bareback pad and this pad out. And so we did days and days of shaps, tarp, ball, shaps, tarp, over and over. And so today we're going to do blanket, shaps, bareback pad, saddle, and just build him up. He's now used to so many more different things going on him. He's used to that much more standstill and relax. And he's used to me doing lots and lots of reps and being kind of patient and relaxing into it. And so we just used all of that as a bit of a pattern to condition him to, yep, we just, this is what we do. And to get him where when it came time to do that saddle, that it wasn't new and startly. He had just done so many different things that the saddle goes on, lays on there. He's had the bareback pad. He's been cinched so many different times that it doesn't need to be any different when it's the saddle. Oh man, he can even kiss his horse on the nose nowadays. And then it was important to just take this time with him, to rub him, give him affection, to where again he just can be trusting. There's just so much more now I'm able to do with the lariat and the coils, and it's just touched him all over so many different times that he's just gotten so much more prepared and ready for these things to be happening, and there's so much less flinching and grunting and groaning. I talked about that earlier. He just held all that tension. And, who knows, they told the girl that bought this horse, they said, oh yeah, he's 4 years old, and I know how to check teeth. He's definitely a lot older than 4, and it's just the lying and cheating and trying to pull a fast one on people that happens in the horse business drives me nuts. Horses is supposed to be a fun and special thing, and we just get people doing bad deal stuff. It's just frustrating and a bummer. Now, all I did with cut out there was just more reps of the pad, and now we've got the shaps, and we're gonna do a few round of the shaps. So leather, the pad goes on, or the blanket here, and then the shaps go on, and you can see it's like he's had these shaps on hundreds of times thrown over him, and he's still, first it'll go, flinch and worry. And this is nice that they're lightweight, so I can do a lot of reps and not wear out, like lifting a 50-pound saddle over and over and over. And here you'll just see, I'm not chasing you. You step forward to me. That's kind of what I'm saying to him right there. And by continuing to put these shaps on there and do all this stuff, it's just really important to take that time, take care of that horse, and put all this stuff. We need to, continue to listen to him, and when he's being bothered, he's just telling us, go one more, okay, 10 times more. We need to have all that working, okay? So now that we've done the shaps, lots of time, you can see kind of it's a pat, and just touching them in different tickly spots. That's something we spent a few days working on. Could I just pat him on the belly, pat him on the shoulder, pat him on the neck, pat him on the belly, pat him on the shoulder, pat him on the neck, over and over until he has things kind of settled in there. Now we're going to get the bareback pad prepped so that we can get the pad on him, and unfortunately the pad just kind of falls there. No big deal. Just gives us another chance to practice throwing it on him. And by continuing to just take the time it takes, eventually we kind of get there. Again, there's so much of this horse that just is a reminder to continue to be patient, stay in the game, never give up, never surrender, and hang in there. Again, he kind of really learned to be observant and look and be curious and put his nose on it, and kind of learned that I would allow him to have time there to do that. He also kind of figured out if he kind of kept his head over there, that maybe I would, not move forward. And so there had to be a few times where it's like I had to push his head over and out of the way and say, no, don't block me, let me in there. Okay, you had your chance to look. You're just going to see, no, let me look in here. You had your chance to look, okay? And once we got that cinch set, the ladder goes to the right length. And we can get him cinched up here. This is just, again, one of those things that we practiced a lot of times. And you still needed to be careful and mindful, right? It would be easy to slap that leather of that latigo and do it too hard and fast and startle him and make him jump. He's just going to need so many hours and reps of this before he ever gets to be a consistent, easy to saddle and rideable horse. But we're definitely much further along now, and kind of got the big rough off. And that was a big part of this process, is just trying to get where there was a shot somebody else could do it and it didn't have to be just me. So now, after standing still for a good while, I think that was 1 minute and 30 seconds that passed in between finishing that, we're just gonna loosen it up and do it again, to where he just gets conditioned to, yep, well, we cinch and we uncinch and we cinch and we uncinch, and this just happens. Okay, it'd be easy in a session to only cinch and uncinch the horse at the one time when you're cinching them and uncinch them when you're taking the saddle off. And this horse just needs reps of on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again, on again, off again. So, cinched it up, loosen it up, and just practice switching sides and fiddling around with all this stuff over and over, so he learns to just be patient on me. just like we've been patient on him. Just when you think we're done, we'll do it again. And all these extra reps, again, that was a big part of getting him to commit more and more to that standstill and know that it's a-okay for him to just be still, and he doesn't have to ready, set, go anywhere. I don't know what happened to this horse and his process of life that kind of got him so bothered. We know he was bred to be a bucking horse and came out of a breeding program that's what they raised horses for. The girl that owns him kind of did the research and found the place and tried to contact them and thought, oh, yeah, he never had any training for that, but where they, buck him out and they put the saddle on and they can teach him to buck and go hard by having that saddle come off and having guys only ride them so long and come off. So it's like you can condition them to go harder and harder and harder. They know if they just go hard enough, they'll get their comfort. We just had to do the opposite. How do we teach him to go soft and quiet, and that's actually what's going to give him his comfort? What was really cool about that little bit was seeing him shape his nose and neck softly and work to lead out with that nose and neck first instead of just pulling and being heavy. Being able to just get in close, touch him, and have him hear all the different sounds of all the different equipment. The rope sounds different than the bareback pad, which sounds different than the blanket, which sounds different than the shaps, which sounds different than the tarp, which sounds different than the ball. All these different sight, sounds, and feel. Okay, those are the three things that scare horses: the sight of it, the sound of it, or the feel of it, or the way it makes them feel. And so the feel of the cinch, or is it the feel of the saddle, or is it the feel of the ball, or is it the sight of those different things? All that can make them really bothered and worried. So again, you can see him, nose, neck, and then shoulder, ribs, and hip. And all we're doing here is just kind of having this be, you don't really need him to go around right now with the cinch on. It was more about have the cinching process happen and that he could be soft and easy, and it is no big deal, so he doesn't get in a hurry or think he's got to rush off or explode. Again, trying to condition him to do less when it comes to getting saddled and all this stuff put on him. Now, just when it seems like it's time to put the saddle on, it's like, how are you going to put the saddle on him and cinch it when he's already got the bareback pad and the cinch on? And again, it's about how many more steps can we add for this bothered of a horse to find a way for him to relax and trust and be confident. So just like we layered the ball, the tarp, and the shaps, we did the blanket, the bareback pad and the saddle, where he just gets used to more and more and more stuff going on top of him. One day it'd be nice if it could be the pad, the saddle, the human, and have him trust it and be confident in it. And allow that to happen and not be worried. By using the lighter weight saddle, it's still got all the leather bits and the stirrups and the saddle strings and latigos and things, so it's still loud and can be sloppy, but the weight of it for me to handle, lifting it on and off that many times, is just crucial to the process to be able to hold out physically. I don't necessarily think the weight of the saddle on him made that big of a difference. It was more about helping the human be able to do more reps. And again, it needed to be where I could push it and bump it and slop it and not just perfectly do it. Have him learn to tolerate that. We really ought to do our best job to be smooth and slick and just right with how we put the stuff on them. But this horse, didn't matter how smooth and slick you did it, he was going to blow. He couldn't handle it. So we just had to do that much more preparation. And you can see how much he's processing and realizing he's fine. To shake his head like that and to put that head down, he just kind of realized it wasn't what he thought it was. So now we're just getting that bareback pad off. And now that the pad is off, we're going to go back to the saddle. One step closer to getting this thing on and cinched up. Just trying to get him prepared with his feet so he's squared up. And you see, he just had that thing on him how many times? And he still has to flinch and be worried. How many times? Still flinch and worry. Mentioned it earlier, and I'll just mention it again, the transition. So switching sides and on and off and on and off and go and whoa and turn and go and whoa and turn and whoa and go. All the transitions from all these different things are just so crucial to get him to stay present, stay in the game, not freeze and then explode and be shut down. And that was a big part, again, of getting through all that preparation. The amount of time it took to get here. And the hours and hours of staying in the game, seeing it through with him. Just for this little bit simple thing of, can you stand still and get saddled? This was one of those moments where your stomach is in knots and your heart's in your throat. You're just, please be good, please be good, please be good. Just a praying and hoping that all your hours and hours and hours and extra steps and then extra even more steps and reps and always just going one more to try to help him was going to allow him to stand still, allow me to get that cinch done where he could just not feel like he had to do anything and be all right. And just like so many times before, if you're wondering if that video's frozen, it's just, nope, we're just staying still. We're just staying patient. Nobody move. Nobody feel like you got to do anything. Just allow him to be there. And reward the fact that he's stood still. And just when I thought he might blow up, he shook it off, licked and chewed, put his head down. This was a big day for this big horse that was really bothered, really scared, really defensive, and learned how to try really hard. Well, as we wrap up this story of Milton, I hope you can see the learning and development that I had to even look at my own self and say, how many more steps do I need to do? How best can I take care of this horse so he can be more confident and trusting, as well as under control and safe, so that we could take care of him, show him that humans are not a bad deal, get him where he could start to accept the human as a friend and a leader, accept the saddle, getting it on his back and getting cinched up, and all the different things it took to do that so that he could stop trying to kill us to save himself and start acting like a partner. Milton's going to get picked up. They found a nice place for him to be able to go where they can take over the responsibilities of continuing his journey and progress, and that's really exciting for us to be able to have been part of this and help him through his hard spots where he could feel a lot better about life, about humans, and be prepared a little bit more to go out into the world. All right, I'm Jake. This is Milton. We're at Pear Tree Ranch, and we'll see you next time.